This program is brought to you by the Stanford Humanities Center. For more information, please visit us at shc.stanford.edu.
Examining the coverage of the Middle East in Western media, and when I say Western media, I mean particularly British and American media, came from the fact that I arrived in the UK for my PhD just pre 9/11. So you can imagine the amount of distortion in the coverage that I actually witnessed while in the UK watching British and American news outputs on covering the Arab world. And from that, I worked on the first research that was looking at perception of news after 9/11. And then another research looking at the coverage of the war in Iraq in 2003. And it's from that kind of context that I actually got interested in studying the coverage of the Arab world in specific, and the Middle East in general, in American and British media. Since I've started working in academia, I have always the tendency to look at practices. And I think that's how my academic career is influenced by my journalism career, in a sense that I'm more interested into exploring, critiquing, and giving kind of approaches to how I think practices should be. If I'm talking about how reporting is taking place during unrest times in the Arab world, I'm mostly concerned with the idea of journalism within the social responsibility context. I'm mostly concerned with ethical practices of journalists during unrest times. And my main advocation, if you want to call it, and I really feel sometimes that I'm advocating for ethical reporting, in a sense that we need to be really aware of the responsibility that is put on our shoulders as journalists reporting within that kind of context, in relation to how our reporting is actually inflicting either harm or damage on the audiences and on the people that we're reporting on. I'm so happy that my experience as a journalist, and I still believe that I am a journalist still, and my experience as my training as an academic is balancing the way I'm actually looking at issues, the way I'm critiquing issues, and the way I'm trying to advocate practices in relation to journalism practices in the Arab world. The first time I started giving my module on reporting the Middle East, that was in Cardiff University School of Journalism in 2005, if I'm not wrong. The most important aspects of going into that classroom is basically starting with the students saying that the Middle East is not one homogeneous entity, that each country has its own specificities, that not all Arabs are Muslims, that there are 22 countries in the Arab world, that there are certain stereotypes about how do Arab people live is completely not true, that the Arab people are not the people who just live on hate. So basically it's just countering all the kind of stereotypes that you get just watching basically Western news media talking about the Arab world. The other thing that I kept insisting on year after year, giving that specific course, is the fact that you need to read, you need to know. Knowledge is as important as skills. History is important. Knowing history of the region is as important as knowing how to report. And that without that knowledge, you end up distorting the reality of what's happening in the region and how do people in the region actually live and communicate. Mainly when you're reporting to Western audiences on the Middle East, you have to take into consideration that you should put your reporting within the context that event has been taking place. You can't take events out of its context. This is where most of the coverage is getting distorted, and there are lots of studies that actually support this argument. What we have seen, actually, we have seen a shift of complete attention, complete interest in covering in news that's coming from the region. And then we got to Syria. By the time the Syrian revolution turned into a civil war, that interest has actually hummed down, in a sense that you don't see as much interest in covering what's happening in Syria unless there is a huge massacre, in a sense that lots of civilians, and we're talking, wouldn't get to the news in the West unless we're talking of casualties that go above 50 or 100. So daily news from Syria has become a kind of redundant story, in a sense that we're seeing it happening every day, so why do we need to cover it? And that's the sad aspect of it. You have also to take into consideration that technology, like technological advancement, ability to access technology, ability to access online news differs from one region to another, depending on level of access to the internet that you get from one country to another. The idea of the wave of citizen journalists that we've witnessed throughout the Arab world in the last 3 years and in other parts of the world is a very important aspect that we need to study, and we need actually to give credit in its role in facilitating certain events. But still, we need to take into consideration that technological kind of advancement, that technological empowerment, if you want to call it, is not equal in all places. Now I've just had an edited collection that is being contracted by IB Tauris London under the title Reporting the Middle East, the Practice of News. And it features some high-profile journalists and academic that works on media, journalism and news in the region. The other project that I'm working on is, it would be a collaborative project with another colleague and friend of mine from SOAS University, Dina Matar, on journalism culture or cultures. So I'm calling it journalism culture /S in the Arab world. So basically, we want to investigate the type of practices that journalists do in different Arab countries.
This program is brought to you by the Stanford Humanities Center. For more information, please visit us at shc.stanford.edu.